Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 61st episode of Friday at 5. One of the three focus areas of National Education Policy 2020 is to promote thinking skills in students through reforms in curriculum, content, pedagogy, and assessment. The policy clearly specifies games as one of the tools to advance students' thinking skills. Games and sports are not synonyms. Sports like gymnastics, cycling, or shooting are not games. Similarly, there are games that are not sports, such as Monopoly, Scrabble, Sudoku, even though some of them may exist as competitive events. Games involve a combination of luck or chance, skills, knowledge, and strategy. Also, there's a major confusion between gamification of learning and playing games. Gamification is turning the learning process as a whole into a game, while game-based learning is using a game as part of the learning process. The goals of both are relatively the same. Serious games and gamification are both trying to solve a problem, motivate and promote learning using game-based thinking and techniques. If we need to use games as a means to promote thinking among students, we need to find answers to many questions. Today, we are going to have a conversation with the distinguished panel of experts. I thank all of you for being on Friday at 5, and we look forward to an insightful conversation with you all.
So let me start the conversation with the first question. How do you see these games, the games that we talk about, fun and leisure, what is their role in a student's learning process and their academic achievement?
So I think the first thing I'd like to share is that when we started the school 22 years ago, we had a motto that if you want to help children learn something, make it a game. So everything that we did was always like a giant game. So we painted floors, we painted the walls, we made chits. Kids were always playing in order to learn. So the first thing about a game is there's a very strong component of play in that. Then the other point about the game is that, you have to connect it with the learning. You've got to map the learning, because no school is going to take in a game if they're just going to play, have fun, and then go back to textbook learning. That doesn't make sense. So the whole idea about games is that not only are children playing those games, so one is existing games. So when we're talking about existing games, you might be talking about carom board or, maybe Coco or Pittu or whatever it is. So they are playing those games, but then you also have to map the learning around it. That means how do I connect it to different competencies, skills, etc. And that's the teacher's job. That's where the pedagogy comes in. So I came across another term called pedagames, pedagames, and I thought that was a good term to use, because these are pedagogy-based games. There's a pedagogy embedded in the processes so that the children get the maximum out of it. It's not just only fun and games. It's not just the fun part. The other part about the games is, why do we like to play games is, it creates a different environment of play, which is non-threatening. The thing why children are scared about learning is, or you said they don't want to think. We don't want to think because we think we might get judged on our thoughts. And the culture of judgment, which is there in most schools across the world, is something that has dissuaded young people from voicing their opinions or whatever. Now, in the framework of a game, there is no right or wrong. There are rules you abide by, and you may win, you may not win, etc. So that is the other part of the game, that there's no judgment. Kids can do and they can repeatedly play. If I lose this time, the next time I might win. There's also this element of chance. And most games that are based on the roll of a dice, the dice is linked to chance. Therefore, there is nothing to do with the ability. It might be my turn or I miss my turn. That's bad luck, but next time I'll have better luck. So for children, it's much easier to deal with that. Now, the third part about the game is that I want to bring in is also that games can be potentially good, or they can also be potentially damaging. Let's also say that not all games are great for all kids. Let me give an example. Let's say musical chairs, for example. Okay. Now you want children to play musical games, play the game, but the child who is supposedly the weakest will be out the first. And games that are based on the sense of out rather than in, again, create exclusion. So I've seen schools where, you might be playing a game of multiplication tables. You sit in a circle and you make it into a game and you do multiples of 5 or 25 or whatever it is. But if the child is not good in multiplication, this is not going to help the child because the child will get out very quickly.
What kind of games can children play where thinking is involved and that thinking skill is being developed, and eventually that thinking skill will also be beneficial in the classroom?
Yeah. So for example, let's talk about existing games. If you're looking at carom, for example, carom that children often play, how can we look at carom board and looking at the angles and strategies that can give me the best number of shots? Okay, so there is a hypothesis that kids can come up. They can test their hypothesis. They can observe. So we've had kids who mapped the angles on the carom board and looked at the geometry of it to see which are the best angles that would get them a particular shot. So then you're using the actual games, you're playing the game first, but then after that you're reflecting on what would improve my particular strategy. That's where the thinking part comes in, and that's where the curriculum can get embedded. So this, I'm giving you an example of something which is not gamification, but use of actual games. Coming back to even something as simple as or as complex as snakes and ladders. I don't know if you know, but there's this book by Harish Johri, who has looked at the original Snakes and Ladders, which is a game about consciousness. It is a very old Indian game. And actually, every time you went up the ladder or you fell down, it was showing you a particular level of your spiritual consciousness. So that was the original game, which was much more complex because it made you think. So what we did with our children is, can we now think of what are the different things you want to put in? And so they put in their own little boxes where you go up because of this or you come down because of something else. So from younger kids, which is grade 3, to older children, they modified those games. They brought in their own. So that's another way of doing it.
There is a normal perception in families, especially the urban families. And we have that Hindi saying also that padhoge, likhoge, banoge nawab, kheloge, koodoge, ho jaoge kharab. So we have this perception in our culture that playing is not learning. Okay? Playing is leisure. Now, do we see a culture in our schools and in our urban families which does not promote playing as a developmental activity, and it just looks at it as a leisure activity?
There's a study which says that where it was written that play is not frivolous, it is brain building. And we all know healthy body, healthy mind. So this is one very important aspect. And as you were talking about parents believing, I think that system has totally changed, Atul. And I'm telling you right now, we're in the process of admissions, isn't it? For the session 22-23 started and it's going on. I wanted to tell you 90% parents I'm meeting in my interactions, they tell me that they have come to Ramagya because I also asked them that yes, there's some perception that parents fill in the forms and they come to school. So I often ask them. So they tell me that they come here because we give equal importance to extracurricular activities. And so this particular thing about that the parents have padhoge, likhoge, to banoge nawab or baki hoge kharab is not there anymore. And parents are actually interested that the children should be playing equally as much as they're studying. But yes, they still are not that ki academics nahi honi chahiye, right? They are not on that particular point. They are on the point equally. We need to have a balance. We need to have a balance between the things. And as per this topic goes, where games and about thinking. So what are the things that you talk about when you say that thinking? I think it will have analysis, it will have interpretation, it will have inference. Then if you talk about thinking, it will also have some self-regulation. We can talk about self-regulation and development of open-mindedness, which comes. So all these things, I strongly believe that everything that you start doing with the child from a very preschool stage is something that gives them a very strong base.
When I see at 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids, right, I don't see them. I see them on Netflix. I see them on video games. I see them on YouTube. I see them on Facebook. But I don't see families sitting down together and playing a game of Scrabble. So is there a gap between what we, idealize and talk about, and then what is actually happening in homes?
That let's not search for answers from children what you have not taught them.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most basic thing. So why are we asking children about these things when we have not given the background of games to them? It is we who have introduced them to the video games.
Great.
It is we who have brought them to this particular stage. So if you want to take them to take back to those games, so it is we who have to do it together. Yeah. And it is not going to happen overnight.
When we go to countries like Finland, there is a culture of playing. Even the adults would play. The teachers would play. The principals would play. If this education policy is the first policy to bring in games, or have we talked about it earlier also? And also my second question is, when I visit a school, there is a wonderful talk about what should happen. But if I visit on a normal day, I go through a school, I don't see too many kids engaged in playing actively any sort of game, except for those who are in the physical education period, who have to be on the ground and doing something. Is there a gap that we need to fulfill?
Well, Atul, that's a very important question. I go back to a very interesting adage by Confucius, who said, thinking without learning is useless, and learning without thinking is dangerous, right? So the question basically is, in Indian context, there has been a lot of games. As a matter of fact, the old Indian methodology, pedagogy was absolutely gamified, and there were a number of opportunities available to them on that. And I remember even in my school days, I learned a lot through games. My teachers used to teach me maths concepts and others, everything through play, through games. Okay, in games there are three important dimensions which is coming. One is education, the other is engagement, and the third is the entertainment, right? But what happened was, over a period of time, we formalized learning education so much, right? And we brought education into textbooks rather than from and took it away from life, right? So long it was a part of life process. You had a lot of games coming through and over there. Now the challenge that you have in the Indian education system is that we have highly formalized the process of learning, right? In that process, there is no way by children could learn through play. As a matter of fact, we don't integrate play with learning. And gamification of the term that was given was pedagogical intervention to games is a very important thing. For that, my teachers themselves have to change their mindset, right? And I think the first thing that I would say is that with the new NEP coming through, we should diffuse the role of textual learning in the classroom, and the teachers should make the classroom more open-ended and integrate the opportunities for learning from informal sources. And informal sources, a number of games are available. I can go for countless games that that you have. Therefore, I believe that it's the time with the new education policy to bring a change in the mindset, right? And as a matter of fact, our B.Ed pedagogy, all other things should refocus from the kind of pedagogy that we have developed over years, customized pedagogy, usually based on Bloom's taxonomy, only on the developmental process over there. Education, learning is a holistic process. When you talk about brain, I'm sorry to say that a brain doesn't think is wrong. Brain is always thinking, but it's not thinking what you want. It is thinking in its own way, and that's the whole problem. What we say that only when you reflect what I'm saying, you are thinking. It's not so. Thinking is that if you go to Candler's Nobel laureate Candler, who said every minute there is a learning happening about, every second there's a learning happening about, every activity that's And therefore, I think gamification is a conscious and deliberate way, deliberate method of integrating personality. And we have very consciously thrown it out of the curriculum.
I think a question, sir. Gamification in India cannot happen till the time there is a culture of playing games. I mean, what are we talking about, sir? We are talking about gamification of learning, which is the second level of step where I have to create a game which delivers certain learning. In India, people don't even play games.
Sir, I think that's all because of your formal learning process. Yes. In the last 40 to 50 years, we have formalized learning so much that learning is all about getting into an IIT, getting into Mars, getting into that. That's a whole problem. As Aparna pointed out very easily, there's scope for learning everywhere, every minute, in every game. Right? And the snakes and ladders, she was referring to, I can give you 100 values which can be taught through the snakes and ladders over there. Every single game, whether it's kabaddi, whether it's, so a very important thing in game, what happens is you give opportunities for differentiated learners, visual, auditory, kinesthetic learners. All the three of them get engaged into the game, and therefore they can learn in the way they want. The whole problem about the thinking you talk about, if you are going to Edward de Bono's process of thinking, that lateral thinking, analytical thinking, parallel thinking, critical thinking, creative thinking, so many strategies are there, and everybody does it. But the point is, if I'm an analytical thinker, I want everybody to think analytically. If I'm a strategic thinker, I want everybody to think. And then they say they don't think. I think that's wrong.
Is there a possibility that we can have a library of games in a school where children can come and issue games and take them home to play with their parents? So can we actually create a game room in every school where children can go borrow games, play games, and that is not seen as a waste of time? Is that something that can be done, Anju, in India?
Not only it can be done, it should be done. Okay. And the thing is that we can create a games library and children don't take back home. They play it with their siblings, they play it with their parents or grandparents or whatever. So to allow children, in fact, in our school, we don't have textbooks since 20 years and since inception, and we actually have games in the classroom. So the children actually pick up a game and they are on different tables and they play the games. Now, of course, we're not saying that this is all just free time. You just come, pick it up, play. No, it's not that. There is a structure. There is a methodology that we choose. We tell them, okay, from this to this set, and this is what you're going to do, and this is what you're going to reflect upon later. So there is some structure and some amount of freedom. So absolutely. The other point is, I think, that there is an entire generation, like you said, who have been deprived of board games. So like Aparna ma'am was saying, that if you haven't taught it in schools, if you haven't introduced them to it, then how are they going to play it at home?
Absolutely.
All they know is just the video games. And I'll tell you, last year when the pandemic happened, there were so many schools were delighted. Abhi technology answer mil gaya humko. Everything will be technology. Bahut maza aayega. But actually, once we had such a surfeit of Zooms and whatever else, children are fed up. They love playing games. Yeah. If you just create that opportunity, my experiences, they don't leave it. And right. I'll tell you one game. It's called Adversity. Some of my ex-students made it because they'd learned games, how to make board games. So when they got bored during the pandemic last year, and there are designers and architects, they made this brilliant game called Adversity. Okay, I'm not going to go into details about it. I'm just telling you my experience. So I said, okay, they're marketing it. Okay, it's being marketed in Bombay. So we as teachers, I think, chalo dekhte hain, let us play. You will not believe, within 20 minutes, we teachers were screaming, fighting, laughing, picking this up, picking that up. It's a game about ecological sustainability, about building cities. The value embedded in that is that you can build a city, but it has to be collaborative. And any decision you make, there's going to be give and take in terms of sustainability and loss, etc. So, those are the kind of games we need to bring in.
Yes. Not
just mindless games. That's why I'm saying be careful. We cannot say all games are great.
Right.
There are games that have negative values. Right. So we want to also give certain values. Yeah.
So why is it not possible for every school to designate one day of the month as the game day where even the teachers are playing games with kids and it's all about games? If something like that is done, will that help school develop a culture of playing games?
It will surely help a culture of very good heart-to-heart bonding first, Atul. This is what I would like to say. I wanted to tell you something about playing with students and that you're talking about. Since what happened that I realized some 2 years ago that there were so many parents talking about PUBG was one thing which was just everywhere and everyone was playing, and parents are having problems and it is creating so much of mental havoc in students' life. So you know what I did? Actually, I started playing PUBG. I learned it and I joined with my students and I played PUBG with them. I was one of the teammates. I was one of the person playing with them. And yes, I definitely enjoyed. And they felt so this thing that being a principal, I'm playing PUBG with them as a team member, right? And then I realized what I wanted to know what these games are doing to children, right? Yeah. Because I believe that if you want to find a solution, you first have to understand the problem. Right, just by people talking you cannot understand the problem. So I started playing PUBG and with my sons, and then the same thing I did with my students in the school. And then I realized that what is happening, that it is capturing their mind so much that in the this thing going to the next level thought process, what is happening, you're not learning how to control yourself, you don't know where to stop, right? So this is what we need to teach our children. So that is what I did, that I told them at a particular time. I said, no, it's 1 hour. I used to say that, and now I think I'll go back to my other thing. Let's get back, right? And we'll again come and play this. So, I started that process of same children, boys and girls who were in PUBG all the time. They said, yes, if I can, I simply used to believe them, ma'am, next one, no, if I can do this, you can also do this.
Right.
If I am trying to do this. So at the end of the day, what you're suggesting is a very good thing. And today I'm telling you, I'm promising you, from next month onwards, one day in Ramagya schools, all of our branches is going to be a game day.
But as you rightly said, there's a problem of addiction when it comes to games. Yes. Okay. So where do we draw the line? How do we tell these kids, and where is the danger? How do we manage that part?
Yeah, I think, you should not blame the games for the mistakes we do, right? The problem basically is that we hold on to something and we say that doesn't liberate us. Okay, it is not the problem with the game, it is a culture of mind. We should know. That's where, in the early days when they talk about education, they talked about the objective of education is Sita Prajna, one who resides in his own consciousness, one who knows how to balance life. What is important, what is not important, what is primary, what is secondary, right? And therefore, to me, even at this age, when I sit in my car, I go into my, so many word games. All right. And people sometimes I forget myself on that. But that's a way to keep your mind engaged. And the problem here is, remember one thing, why this addiction? Because when you play the games, you are emotionally involved. Your glands and adrenaline, everything is being pumped out. Therefore, psychologically, it has been proved that when you provide an emotionally competent stimuli, learning is very effective. And then the neural bonds which are established are very, very strong. So there is a pleasure center in the brain and there is a pain center in the brain. Because these emotions cause you pleasure, there is a huge requirement to get back into this pleasure again and again. You understand? So this is a psychological problem which we need to control, and there is no problem with the game. And that's where the teachers walk in pedagogy, where to draw the line for every game once the results and the objectives are attained.
So data is very important, Anju. Right now, a lot of schools don't even know what games their kids play on a regular basis with their family, with their friends, and what games teachers play. Do you think as one of the exercises schools can, or teachers at a classroom level can do a survey using a quick Google form where, it's called Games We Play, and then ask every student to share the games that they play and enjoy with their friends, family, parents, so that we can get a good data of where we stand and then start building a game culture in the school? Anju, do you think this will help?
Well, I think if we want two things, if we want that to happen, it should not happen by the teachers, it should happen by the children.
Yeah.
So it should not be another burden for the teacher. Mujhe fir se hi karna padega. It should actually be a project by the children who decide that let's look at the data, who is playing what, and that becomes a great scope to learn mathematics, to learn, to analyze data, etc. So I think I would say that is something that we have done. In fact, today, whole day, since the last 1 week, we've been preparing games in our school. Children have been preparing, and the reason being, I'm creating a module with the CBSE for games, for the pedagogy through games.
Right.
So this is something coming from the CBSE. So along with the NEP 20, whatever may be embedded in that,
Right.
there is at least some awareness and there is a trust to build that. And now what I feel we should be doing is to empower teachers with strategies that they can use in the classroom so
Right.
that the children get active. When the children start examining, the critical thinking will happen, there'll be reflection, and we will be able to revive a lot of games that India has had in the past, like Bala sir was saying, and bring them back into our classrooms. Look at its history, look at that science, look at
Yes.
the concepts which are around it. That's what we should be doing.
Whatever we are doing in a school is we are doing it to enhance the learning of a child, the education of a child. So even if you're bringing in games and promoting playing of games, at the end of the day, we need to measure the impact of that activity on our core deliverable to the society, which is education. How do we assess the impact of, and I'm going to take this question to all three of my panelists, how do we assess the impact of playing games on the achievement level of the students?
Well, I think assessment of the games by children will become highly subjective, right? Because it involves a lot of emotions, it involves a lot of strategies and challenges and the previous experience, whatnot. So I think in terms of formative learning, formative assessment, observational as well as developmental inputs we receive from the children are good enough to be assessed, but not in terms of the kind of subjective assessments that we make, a summative assessment that we make on that. But for development of a personality of a learner, games play a very significant role, and there are large number of inputs available which can be detailed and assessed as anecdotal records over a period of time, right? Let's not try to play them, mark them, and then declare you pass or fail. That kind of assessment is not at all good for this game. That's my
Right. Thank you, sir. Anju, your take on that?
You can't assess children's playing a game, because you can't assess the performance. That would kill the game. That would kill the entire pedagogy or the whole purpose of it. But what you can look at, like sir said, is, let's say, reflection. How did you enjoy it? What did you like the most in it? How would you play this differently, etc. And if the children are making their own games, then there's a whole design component. There's a whole solution. There are surveys have done. Why did they make the game in this way? So then that part can be assessed. So whatever we assess in a formative way can be the learning, and that is coming from the child, and it cannot be a judgmental eye, which with marks, that is strictly not required, I think.
Yeah. Don't make game into a competition also. It's for fun, relaxation, enjoyment. Aparna, your take on that?
My thing is that we can definitely use games as assessment, but not in the way we think assessment is. It can be an observation from a teacher. It should be an observation the teacher has about the student and knowing the student much better, and that helps her. That is the assessment that we should be doing. Okay, this is what we need to work with this child. In this particular game, if this is the thing, now we have to study and researches that we are doing in our school. When we are dealing with a preschool curriculum that I discussed with you the other day, Atul.
Right.
In that curriculum, we have put up lots of games and we assess the children through them, but we don't talk about it like that. It is our assessment, and we see that how better we can help the child in understanding and in learning process. That's what I think. That's the level at which we can do the assessment.
Great. I'm going to hand it over to Harinder and take up some questions.
Thank you, Atul. And the question is, when students are playing, they may become noisy or get so involved that they may get distracted from other learning activities. Is it important to set rules and do's and don'ts before playing games are introduced in the classrooms? Dr. Anju?
The noise is very much part of this more experiential learning. If you're talking about joyful experiential learning, yes, there will be noise, there'll be a lot of laughter and shouting. And sometimes kids are so cooped up at home that when they come into school, there is a greater release. So I think that is natural, it should be encouraged. But if it is disturbing other groups, then some rules can be set where we can say, all right, now let the noise level be controlled because other groups are getting disturbed because they're also playing. So that is all that I would say. But about the learning is not separate. Learning is through the games. So you can't say that they're not learning that time. John Dewey, the father of experiential learning, gave a nice term. He called it collateral learning. And actually, children are not learning just one thing at a time. They're learning several things at one time. Maybe they're learning collaboration, patience, strategy, observation, learning from each other, conflict resolution. So actually, children will be learning a lot of things when they're playing any game. So I don't think that should be a problem. I would say encourage the kids. They have put the finger on their lips for way, way too long. For centuries, we put kids on hard wooden benches and told them, finger on your lips, don't ask questions. I think it's the time the teachers keep quiet and let the children make some noise and hear them laugh.
Should schools motivate and enable teachers to use games as part of the teaching learning process through a training program?
Definitely. In what way the training program, like what we are doing right now is we are training our minds when we are talking and discussing a very important topic. So everybody, I think the number of participants, I can see 333. So everybody of us, when we are talking right here and discussing this, we are learning so much through it. Like I have been making points that, okay, I told you that I have to make a game day. So my mind is already rushing that, okay, what we need to do? How will we make it a game day? And which date I can choose? And how will we do? So when I will do this, naturally, my teachers are the ones who are going to be my front runners, right? So definitely it's a training, training is needed, but training not in the sense like we have those training sessions, where we all sit and there's somebody who comes with a PPT and share that this training is on the ground training.
If students or teachers design their own games, will there be a stronger impact on the development of thinking skills?
Well, I think that's a wonderful idea, but that leads to kind of a creativity. I'm not against the children designing their own game because we talk about design thinking. Right. So designing a game is basically a process of design thinking. And I think that is fundamental to enterprise, creativity, entrepreneurship, whatnot. I really would salute a child who would love to come with a new game and say that this is what we want to do. Why not?
Thank you to all the panelists for an insightful conversation and answers to some excellent questions. Friday at 5 gives you enough food for thought to reflect during the weekend or continue having conversations with your colleagues. Okay, we'll see you again next Friday at 5 with another awesome conversation.